What's up everyone, Sean here, and today in this video I wanted to sit down and talk about the long-awaited finale of a anime series and manga that e exploded when it first came out. Everyone was talking about it at the time, back, and I believe it was like 2013-ish. Don't quote me on that, but the long 10-year journey has come to a close with the very recent big finale that they recently released. And I actually went ahead and watched it with a couple of friends, um, who asked me to join them and stuff like that. So um, it was that of itself was quite the experience because we were able to watch it on um, my friends like families like big TV screen and home theater system and stuff like that. So that definitely enhanced it, but I definitely don't want to like obviously let that influence what's going on here. The finale, I'm just gonna start off with that and then go into like the series as a whole, and then go over like the major spoilers anyway from the stuff that I can remember from the series. And yeah, so um, of course, so this is a non-spoiler portion, and I will go to the spoiler portion later on. But yeah, I think the finale did a really good job overall portraying sort of like the gravitas that obviously it had from the manga. I think it definitely did a great job there. It was well animated as expected with, from Mappa and stuff like that. I know that there's some situation going on with Mappa, but for what it is, though, I think it was well done here at least. So, I think it paid off there in that particular case. But anyway, yeah, so it was well animated. I love that they, fitted some extras in there to enhance what's being told on the screen. I mean, there was a lot of extras with like some of like the fight scenes and stuff like that, the battle scene, and then of course with the actual ending of the finale of itself too. I mean, definitely really felt the moment, right? The really big gravitas there as well, in that very final scene during the credits. But as I watched this, man, I felt like I really felt it, right? Like the ending, like this journey is over, essentially, and it definitely I can say is not going to be a happy one. Exactly, it's not like completely dark, but at the same time, it's not like your typical fairy tale sort of happy ending and stuff like that. There's just sacrifices being made. I really love the sort of um, the tragedy that has been happening throughout this whole thing, even from the beginning. But it's just we just weren't didn't even know, right, until we got to really know what the world was like within Attack on Titan, and then just the way it unfolded was just damn. This is definitely filled with like dark history. This is definitely like if you like the dark age type of stuff from like Europe and stuff like that. It's very Europe heavy. First off, right? Very European influenced. Obviously with the names, but the setting and even like the art style within the manga of itself, right? And that was always like kind of a unique feature, I would say. Take that as you will. I mean, it might have been. I can definitely see as a detriment towards the readers and the viewing experience when it comes to manga stuff because of the art style. It's just very different. It's not your typical, anime or just like that typical style that you see commonly today with manga. Very friendly, very colorful in the chapter covers and stuff like that. Even like the black and white stuff, you kind of feel that colorful energy, right? That cuteness, of course. But with here, this is very dark. This is a dark fantasy. Just gore, guts. Well, not guts, but just a lot of blood and huge implied violence. Um, I mean, you don't really get to see like like intestines or anything like that, but you do see teeth. You do see just a lot of blood, right? And just the way characters die, the implications, of course, is very graphic, of course. So there is a lot of graphic violence there. It is definitely one of those shows. So if if for those anyone sensitive, right, obviously it wasn't for them. This was something long time ago and has been pretty consistent throughout. Obviously, the anime does pull back a little bit on that, but I think it does a good job enhancing how the anime of itself or the manga of itself looked with the anime makeover and stuff like that. But back to here with the finale. The finale, I think, again, it definitely wrapped it up nicely, but what I really wanted to specifically touch upon now is like the other stuff like really added up to the experience for the anime, like the music, the sound effects, and of course, most of all, the voice acting in this one. They really went out with a bang with this one. They really made sure like the voice actors kind of gave it their all, and I think they really nailed it with the situation at hand, right? This is the final bout, and of course, with the stakes at hand, it definitely felt appropriate with how these characters reacted with the situations. Of course, with the voicing to really match it too. They did a really damn good job with that. There's a character who just like bawling their eyes out and stuff, and just you really feel it. You definitely do feel it, especially with Armin, right? With so much on the line for him, and with the stuff that happens, right? He just you feel it, man. You definitely feel it. Especially with the stuff that happens between himself and Aaron. With all the stuff that they went through, they were the best of friends, and of course, with the outcome of things, of course he's gonna let out just you know go this like this crying. Of course he's gonna just break down into tears. He's gonna and of course um really just really goes the voice actor or seiyu, excuse me, really goes in on that, and that seiyu deserves the sort of MVP award for that within that finale. Of course. Otherwise, yeah, Mikasa and stuff that happens with Reiner, um, and Jean or John, and of course with Coney, I think his name in English. I think it was like Coney or something like that. The shaved head dude who surprisingly like has stuck out this so far, right? Or has survived for so long, right? I thought he was gonna be one of those characters that like would die early on, but he stuck it all the way through. I mean, to up to this point. I mean, for the finale, and so yeah, I mean, and of course he had his sort of moments too. Levi, of course, man, like he definitely is my favorite of the male characters amongst the male characters. I love the performance with Kamiya Hiroshi, I think his name is, uh, as Levi. Like he has that voice. It definitely fits with Levi, his personality and everything. I love even like the neat freak stuff or the clean freak stuff. And of course, leading up to the finale, right? He's just man, like the stuff that happens to him, on a physical and of course a emotional level too, you know. Uh, and yeah, like obviously this being Attack on Titan, the deaths, right? I mean, obviously the deaths here are just damn man, you definitely feel it. There is just like moments in this finale alone where I can actually kind of actually start feeling, on the verge. You get that feeling, right? You're kind of starting to about to cry, if that makes sense, right? And that happened to me actually a couple of times. It was something to do with like somebody's mom or something, but one of them for sure I can definitely explain here was the scene with the baby. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, um, they did. they gave their all for that baby, like literally. The people that were running away, they gave their all for that baby, and that shit was just like, wow. This is just that imagery, the idea of it, right? Just that the you know the weight of that, man. Especially what's happening with right in front of them, right? Which is the rumbling, that stuff, man. It's just like, man, it's such a ride, what a roller coaster ride that whole finale was. It definitely felt like that, right? Starting from the start to finish, definitely too. Well, to an extent, I guess, but it definitely stops at one point, and it does definitely takes its time, after the fact, right? When this is all like resolved with something, it definitely takes quite a bit of time to like wrap up things in a way. You get to see the reasons of why this and that happened, and you get to see the gist of like why this whole thing happened in a way, in a way. If you definitely paid attention to like what was going on with the flashbacks, in the earlier episodes, um, it definitely starts to make a little more sense. But you definitely have to watch the whole thing to kind of like really weave it all together. And that's the thing, right? Like, a lot of the earlier stuff is definitely like hard to like see it with that same interest, if that makes sense. It definitely, felt like a more typical like plot. Like, okay, we gotta like just stop these titans from entering the wall or whatever. You know what I mean? And oh, you got this one boy or whatever who has the powers of a titan and using his powers to weaponize against the other titans and such like that. And then it kind of just evolved from there, right? Like it definitely snowballed from there. And this was supposed to be. Here's the thing: this was supposed to be a shonen anime, right, or shonen series, franchise, whatever. And but with the stuff that they just like explained or just like spilled the beans, the way they did it, on top of the violence and all that stuff, the themes, all that stuff, definitely felt like very mature. Like not just the violence, but just like the stuff that happens throughout the show. Very mature for being something that appeared in Weekly Shonen magazine, I believe it was. Very, very strange, but it also means that this does stick out like uh, quite a bit amongst shonen animes alone. I mean, I think this is definitely the ones that will stick around for a very, very long time in terms of like impressions. It is it is familiar and yet very unique and very much unique in its own right. It definitely has its own flavor. That is definitely to say. So yeah, I mean so back to the later half without spoiling things, of course, of the finale. I mean, it all kind of like the point is that it all kind of starts to make sense with this later half, or when they just like exposition, right? All this exposition, the lore dump, all this talking, which may be a turn off for some people. I do understand that. I mean, this is all about action, right? I mean, people look forward to the action in these scenes, which yes, were well done. If I haven't said already, with Mappa behind the wheel, um, it definitely felt very much more like a roller coaster ride with those crazy battle scenes, and everything. All the Titans fighting, the humans fighting, and then even got the subplot of the people trying to come in and you know try to get their sort of ground as well in a way. It's hard to explain without spoiling things, but anyway, so there's a bunch of stuff going on. I mean, there were some complaints. It's not perfect, of course, but I think they're definitely weighed by all the positive that I can see with this one. And yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of talking, and it kind of just like wraps up um, rather nicely. I think, or at least it makes sense, right? Like I said, like the happy. It's kind of a bittersweet ending in a way. I mean, things get tied up in a way. Things still continue, of course, and then there's still stuff after the credits. So, but yeah, overall, like the acting, the performances, the animations, the look of the finale and everything. I mean, the quality of the animation, the music, like I said, everything else I think felt well portrayed. Well, I think this was well done for for the time given. I mean, the of course one of the big flaws or big negatives I can give is of course the distribution of this whole thing, this whole final season, right? It was supposed to be like final season part two, part two of part one or something like that, and then part two, part one, and then part two, part two. It kind of felt like that, right? Like it's kind of like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, or whatever, part one, and then there's part two. That was supposed to be like the finale for that story anyway. But this felt a little more confusing in some ways than one. But um, yeah, that's like one of the big negatives I can give it to. I mean, you can also give it the negative with the pacing. I think it definitely suffers from that. But I think it's in the grand scheme of things is to tell this rich story within these number of episodes or within this time. So there's a lot going on for sure. Especially if you're willing to look into the history that it built itself over time, right, within this world. There's a lot of dark history, definitely, with Attack on Titan, especially with what happened with Aaron's family, and then the distant relatives, and then it really plays, of course, the sins of our fathers type of thing. It even incorporates the elements of love, which, okay, I mean, it was tolerable, I guess you could say. It wasn't like a romance type of. It's not some romance franchise like that. So they're obviously not too much. They don't play too much into the love relationships, other than the stuff that happens between Mikasa and Eren. That's like the only um, strong element of romance, and that's essentially it. Yeah, I mean, some characters, yeah, they want to get together with Mikasa also, which is pretty funny. Which is, to mention, there were some comedic moments within um, this finale as well, especially more by the end of it, of course, too, right? But even like kind of throughout the finale, there were some little drops of humor, especially with the language, right? When they're calling Eren this and this and that. I thought that was pretty funny. The subtitles did a pretty good job of kind of conveying that too. Um, I think, yeah. So the localization was pretty well done too, for at least for where we watched it on Crunchyroll. We watched it on their Crunchyroll account, and that was how we were able to enjoy it for the most part. So, but yeah, the characters were very much likable. A lot of likable characters in this one, but it is one of those ones where you really can't get attached to too much because a number of those characters meet their end, man, and it is rather brutal. For at least a good number of them anyway. So there's some surprising ones. There's some where you thought was gonna happen but doesn't. Um, it's just kind of all over the place in a way, and that's what makes this more memorable in a way. Now I do understand, there's some discrepancies during the first couple of seasons. I think it was season one with the pacing and stuff like that. Um, I can't really specifically remember what it was because this is just a long time ago. So I haven't recently watched like any of the earlier episodes as of recent, right? I've only um, watched the newer seasons on release, and then that's it. Like I didn't really like rewatch it. The only time I kind of spent my time with Attack on Titan was, of course, reading the manga, but also kind of look at the wiki to sort of, you know, um, pick around with the lore and stuff like that, right? Um, and obviously, I can't really talk about it too much here, but yeah, it's just like when it comes to the characters, right? Very much likable. My favorite characters, by the way, like I said, was Levi. But when it comes to the female characters, Peak definitely, Hanji, and Sasha, right? So you can kind of imagine what I went through as I was watching this anime, right? Throughout, especially by the final season, right? It's just a roller coaster of emotions. A lot of stuff happens. Especially there's just this turnabout, right? That two-faced stuff, right? There's that huge twist, and some of the delivery of those big twists were just like, what the hell? Like, really? It happened like that? Especially with the stuff with Rainer, right? Or Reiner. Rainer just like flat out says like something, right? And it's just like, what? Like I don't think I've had that same feeling or experience reading through the manga, of course, right? So the voice is definitely, of course, with any anime or manga into anime, really enhances things, right? And it's just like, wow, it really happened like that. So there's some moments like that, but otherwise, it is not, at least to me, that much of a detriment. It definitely weirded me out in those moments. But yeah, um, if there's anything else, oh yeah, so um, the characters, and then like the whole world with like just the concept of just like the ODM gear, moving around to cut the Titans down, by their neck and stuff like that, or they found out that they had to cut the neck to stop them, right? But just like the costs and the weight, the blood on people's hands, right? That's what makes this also all the heavy, right? And it's just that's what really cements this too a little more further, right? Just like that the weight, the the sacrifices, the stuff they gotta put on the line, right? They put themselves on the line. Just they know they're gonna get fucked up, and they just march in anyway. Especially that one scene with Erwin, man. A lot of those crazy moments. Just being in that world is just like, man, you definitely feel it. That's what makes this very compelling. Very compelling. The the um, the challenges that they're facing. It's very compelling, and of course, how the characters react to these things, very genuine as well. But yeah, but there is those moments of comedy and comedic moments, humorous stuff here and there to help sort of like help you sort of take a break from that. Um, of course, with a lot of these animes, with these dark ones anyway, you love always like the first like season or a couple these handful of episodes because it's all about like all about the main character, growing up, progressing, training, getting to know the other characters, right? The happy moments, right? A lot of these happy moments happen, boot camp stuff, you name it, and then of course you go into war, and what happens in war? Death, right? So of course that stuff is going to happen. Um, Again, it definitely takes familiar elements, but adds those twists, and it definitely helps paint this a little more uniquely amongst this sea of anime, right? It definitely sticks out more ways than one. Okay, so I can definitely kind of drone on a bit more, but I definitely will stop it here once I get before I go into spoilers. So to reiterate the finale here, I like it. I really liked it. I liked how it wrapped it up. It definitely has some extra scenes in there, right, in between, but doesn't like have fillers or anything like that. It just enhances the context of some things, which is nice. Not gonna go say what it is, of course, but um, it also felt seamless to the point where I kind of didn't even notice, but also I kind of know, if that makes sense. So I liked how seamless it was. So maybe that is a positive for someone like me anyway, because I can't really like pick out what was extra and what wasn't. So because it's been a while since I actually saw the ending for the manga or read the ending from the manga. So yeah, the finale was great of itself, I think. A lot of great performances. It wrapped it up nicely. The characters, met their resolve, I guess, nicely. Um, it really paints the overall uniqueness for this dark fantasy shonen series. Again, I guess it's called a shonen or considered a shonen series, but it's definitely stands up to all the mature stuff that we have in the lineup here, right, of anime. So, you know, it definitely is one of those ones where it's super popular, but there is going to be that big handful of haters and stuff like that. And there have been some controversial stuff that happens with certain characters and such, of course. Their disappointments are probably going to be had for some people, of course. That's just how it kind of goes. But I wasn't really disappointed. I definitely kind of see where they're coming from and why they feel that way overall. But um, I found it to be funny, but at the same time, I definitely believed it. Right? It definitely um, is helped by the voice acting, the sounds, the music and everything, the colors, I guess you can say. There's some extra little stuff during the conversation between Aaron and Armin. So that does really enhance sort of the context of what's going on, within that conversation, such like that, especially by the end of it too, more towards the end. So yeah, let me go ahead and give this the whole series, right? I mean, the finale of itself was like, oh man, like a 9.5 or something. I don't know. Really, it's definitely almost a 10. Really. Maybe there's some nitpicky things that might have added up to that minus zero point 0.5 or something like that. So I will can definitely give it a 9.5 out of 10 for sure. It might fluctuate between a 10 and a 9.5. That's really the nature of it for right now. Maybe it might mild out, and then I can definitely give it a definitive score. But let's just go as a stick with this 9.5 just to be safe, But that's just for the finale. But the overall series, I'm gonna give it a 9. I think it definitely deserves that solid 9. I think it does suffer from some pacing issues. There are some fillers, but it definitely ultimately gets overwhelmed by all the like crazy stuff that happens in this world. All the dark stuff, all the just like the sins of our fathers type of stuff, and just um and just like the individual deaths, the just like the gravitas, the violence, the battles, just everything else too, the actions of certain characters take. It's like, damn, you don't really get to see that with shonen characters every day. You don't not It's not every day you get to see that. So yeah, very respectable 9 out of 10. The music, of course, the openings, of course, were very memorable. The endings, too, in some ways, but the openings too. I can definitely talk about the opening in its own thing, but that also enhances the experience. I think opening two was the one that's very memorable, right? Um, but yeah, but it's hard to swallow because it's over for this series. You know what I mean? And it officially is, right? It was over from the manga, right? For a good while, and then they had it animated, and then it took a long time itself to wrap up that final season. But here we are. Now I can officially say that it's really over. The anime is over. The manga is definitely over. It's over. It's been a good 10 years, right? This stuff started when I was in college, starting college, or 2 years into college, I think. Anyway, um, I think I started watching the anime and then I dove into the manga. I kind of like saw it side by side, but I of course decided to watch the anime first and then read it. Sometimes it happens the other way around, but in this case, it was anime and then manga. And then I read the manga like all the way through, um, and such like that, especially during the in-betweens, right? That I was definitely curious of what happens because the story was very fascinating, you know. So yeah, but that's all come to a close, and I gave it a 9 out of 10. So solid 9. I believe the author's name is Isayama. So I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but thank you for your creativity, your work. It was a quite the masterpiece amongst the sea of manga and anime, and it's definitely hard to say goodbye when it comes to that series. Maybe we'll see a different series down the line. Um, the ending of itself too, eh, it could be ambiguous depending on how you paint things. Up to you, really. But anyways, yes, 9 out of 10. Just loved it. It definitely is somewhere in my top 10. So yeah. Alright. So we're gonna talk about the spoilers. I'm not gonna talk about all of them, but just like the major stuff, right, throughout the series, because the old memory bank is a little dusty there. So, but anyways, thank you very much for those who don't want to be spoiled, and go ahead and watch the rest of it. Um, but for those who want to discuss the spoiler stuff, thank you very much. I'll see you in the spoiler section of things. Okay, so we are definitely back for the spoiler section of things. I'll try not to be too long with this, but I just wanted to cover the major spoiler points throughout the whole thing, not just the finale, of course. Starting with, of course, the very first episode, right? Very first couple of episodes. I mean, the whole start with uh, Aaron when he was young, and his mom getting eaten by the smiling titan, and then you see the armor titan just crushing through the wall and everything, that part of the wall anyway. And then you have, of course, the colossal titan, right? That was just such an amazing start, I would say. And then the drive, right? Like, man, I know I gotta, get these titans, for Aaron, essentially. But later down the line, right, we have the female titan, and then you come to find out who that female titan is, and it's amongst one of them, right? Another character that I do like, which is Anna, and I think it was Annie, Leonhardt, I believe, or Leonhardt, is of course the female titan, right? I mean, she was the one also who taught Aaron how to fight in a way, she taught him some moves. She got that bit of that little Muay Thai thing going on, which is pretty cool. She is pretty cool in that regard, but her being the female titan, like, gosh, man, that's a hard pill to swallow. And that was just the beginning, right? Like, the way she just brutally killed the squad with Levi's squad, especially with I think her name was Petra. Like, just the way she just crushed her with her foot, and of course the kick for that one dude who had the ascot and everything, who tried to copy Levi. He kind of had that ugly mug to him, but it was kind of funny. And then it's just, jeez, man. But the stuff, that the process of finding their weaknesses, what they do, especially thanks to Hanji, right? I love Hanji. Her introduction was great, But yeah, you have then, the deaths of so many of those like people from the camp or whatever, or the boot camp, and then or the training regimen, what do you want to call them, including of course Jean's, I guess, best friend or closest friend at the time, which was, I believe, was Marco, right? And then come to find out later on that Marco was killed by fellow scout members, right? Or the regiment members, right? The trainees. And you come to find out eventually that it was Bertolt, I think his name was. But you have Reiner, and then you have Annie. That's just like, that's another hard pill to swallow. Um, and then you find out, of course, Rainer is the armor titan, the very armor titan that crushed through the wall. And then you see, of course, the colossal titan that was, Bertolt. That just, dang, dude, it's just like one after the other, man. It definitely, again, it really sets Attack on Titan to be that memorable anime. Um, and then we get to see a little bit hint of Eren's power um, when he essentially starts to unlock the powers of the founding Titan, right? He has some founding Titan powers. Um, and then, besides being the Assault Titan or the Attack Titan. And it sucks because, we see more deaths and we lose, what's his face? He used to be, I believe, kind of a high ranked or like a lieutenant or sergeant or something like that equivalent within the scout um, regiment, and um, kind of knew Eren, Mikasa, and Armin since they were kids, right? And he was, drunk and stuff like that, pretty funny. I forget his name, man, but it's just so it's been a while. It's been a while. But he gets killed when Eren tried to transform again, but he couldn't. So he's like, "What's wrong with me?" And then he unleashed, that power, right? When all the Titans kind of turned on to the Smiling Titan, and then just shredded her, right? Later on, you get to find out, yeah, that Smiling Titan, she's pretty important. She was originally an important person. I forget exactly who it was, but it's like right at my tip of my tongue. But yeah, um, that's kind of like, it's just like so many of these connections just weave together, and it's just like, oh man, kind of a mind blower in a way. Um, this is yeah, that was another big moment too, of course, right? Um, so that I don't know. Wait, I forget if that was before Reiner and Bertold told their true identities. I forget exactly. But anyway, okay. So let's jump more towards the stuff with Zeke, right? And then with the Beast Titan, and then we lose more characters, right? We lose what is it, Mikhail or Mike or something like that. The guy who sniffs, right? He had a good nose and stuff like that. Um, he, I believe, was killed by several. I think it was like several Titans, but were commanded by the Beast Titan, right? AKA Zeke. That whole stuff too, like when Erwin, excuse me, the big commander, charged, went for that suicidal charge with his remaining troops and just got shredded by the rock toss by the Beast Titan, man. Oh man, that was wild. That was fucking wild. And at some point, Hanji became the commander, right, to replace Erwin, I believe. At least eventually she does, yes, or they, I forget, because yeah, Hanji is supposed to be ambiguous or something like that, gender wise. So I tend to lean more towards she, but for the sake of this, let's just say they. So them, they, whatever. But they became the commander eventually. So yes, but let me see. But yeah, I mean, eventually, stuff happened with Aaron, and then Aaron sort of turned to what was supposedly like his evil self. He that turnabout, man, that twist with what Aaron was doing. That whole thing was fucking wild. That I believe that at that point that was the beginning of the final season, right? So, um, he became like this leader, the Chad and everything. Um, he became very boss like, very leader like. And then people died for it though, right? Like Sasha, for example. They were they were like trying to capture like the War Titan and everything, and then we were introduced to more Titans like the Cart Titan, the Jaw Titan, I think, and then so on and so forth. You know, um, it was whew, man, all that stuff that was happening too. But yeah, I mean, then I found another favorite female character, Pig, right? Like, man, I really like Pig. Pig is just so funny. Um, the stuff that she does, I wish they showed more Pig, but it is what it is. Um, I like her presence there, and um, she's definitely is up there for me anyway. Um, which is funny because like Sasha died. I was very sad when that happened, right? She was shot by fucking Gabby, which I hated for that in that moment, but you know, with the circumstances right, with the writing and everything too, I could not bring myself to completely hate her, right? I mean, they have their reasons. They have their reasons. Um, it definitely sucked, but they're it is what it is, I guess. So I don't completely hate her, but I did hate her for doing that. And yeah, you can kind of imagine, right? All the other Sasha fans, right? How they felt about it, including me. Um, and then we get to like listen to all the lore, and then oh yeah, and then I forget all the stuff about like Historia and stuff like that. The Reese family and everything beforehand. And then yes, she became queen or whatever, right? Um, but back to here. So yeah, we eventually come to learn about the lore and everything about why this is all happening and stuff like that. Um, it all started with Ymir, right? And it's kind of funny. It really boils down to um Ymir being so loyal to the king, right? And I think it was like the first King Fritz or whichever he was. Um, he treated her like a slave, but and yet she just had this undying love for him for some reason, to the point where she took the spear um, for him. Rather than taking a bullet, right? The spear. She took the spear, and then um, that's where it all began, really. And and because of her powers, right, she was sent to this other world, this dimension where she can actually make these titans, these bodies to titans out of these like the sand. Um, and then that somehow comes to reality, and then um, uh, the people who have the or essentially the subjects of Ymir, right? That's what they're called. Have the ability to turn into these titans somehow, um, for the most part. Because after she died, the king forced his three daughters to eat her, cannibalize. That's also that dark stuff too, man. That's wild, you know. And that's why, that's where the names of the walls came from too. It's the daughters of that king, which is crazy, you know. And then eventually the king, well, one of the kings, right, later down the line, lost the war, and so he and his people had to retreat to that island, the Paradise, whatever island, and they had to build the wall, or the wall was built, beforehand, but essentially they were just sealed off from the rest of the world. It essentially um, kept them out rather than being like a threat, right? But it's almost like being encapsulated, right, away from the rest of them, like the Marlanes, I think they're called. They like looked at them as like the demons, right, the devils, I believe, because they had the power of the Titans, I think, originally. And then you have, of course, some of the Marlanes, or what do you call them, with some of those powers too, the Titans, to use it against them in a way. That's why you have some like Rainer and Bertolt and Annie to infiltrate Paradise, and there you go, right? To be for all those reasons that were pretty much said in the anime. So yeah, but that whole history dump was just like wild, right? It's just so funny because yeah, it all started because um, she took that spear. Ymir took that spear because she loved him that much. And for thousands and thousands of years, she made these Titan bodies to help continue the royal family bloodline, right? To protect them, right? Essentially, she gave them power so to make sure they live, right? Essentially. So that's just essentially why Attack on Titan happened in the first place. Is because Ymir just loved this king too much. It to the point where it was quote unquote a nightmare, right? Which is why there was that alternate scene where um, you get to see Ymir with her daughters, and then you see the king with the spear inside him, because in that alternate take, she didn't do it, right? She didn't die. It's kind of like a what if, right? If she didn't die, then it wouldn't this wouldn't have happened, right? Um, but you know, another conflict would have been born, sure, maybe. But point being, yeah, the stuff that you see on screen is all because of that, right? I guess you can call her a simp for the king, and the king, I guess, didn't return all the love that she kind of deserved, right? He looked at her as a tool because she had the power of the Titan, right? She was the first. She was the founding Titan, essentially, you know. So that's like the basic thing that I can explain from what I can understand. Of course, there's a lot of in betweens, but that's like the basis of it, you know. So if anyone wants to like help fully explain of why this whole story happened in the first place, please let me know in the comment section below. With a warning, of course. But anyway, yeah, very, very, very rich in history in that sense. Um, I have a basic understanding, right? And then by that time, um, um, someone like Mikasa was able to sort of like stop uh Ymir, because she is the one to essentially um end Eren, because he was, of course, the current inheritor of or the current yeah, the current inheritor of the founding Titan power, right? But I guess he let himself get killed, so and thus the cycle ended, right? So the power of the Titans comes to an end by that point, right? And so therefore, she's gone, right? She's also gone. Her soul is gone. She can go to rest in peace. That's what essentially happens. So that's yeah. Um the basis of that. But there is that sense of like time travel a little bit because the founding Titan can manipulate memories or use memories to look into the future almost, and then somehow implant those memories into their past selves so that they somehow know later on. At first they're like, wait, what happened? What was that? And they're crying. It becomes almost like a time loop thing too, in a way. If you want to think of it like that too, it can be, I think. But that's where it gets a little messy there, so I don't want to think about that too much at this time. But yeah, that's really all there is to it. Um, Wrapping up with this, where with the credit scene, right? Once Armin, did his thing, right? He killed the Titan. Oh, I killed the Titan, blah, blah, blah. Or I killed Eren, blah, blah, blah. That is essentially it. And then, um, but damn, before that though, Coney, Jean, all that stuff, they were turned into Titans. But thankfully they weren't killed in that process because um, by that time, Mikasa killed Eren. So yeah, that stopped the Titans. Man, but it was a roller coaster ride, and then to wrap up that roller coaster ride, you got that scene with Eren being buried. Well, not exactly seeing Eren being buried, but he was buried at the tree where he took a nap, right? Always took the nap, and then you have that little wholesome scene with the bird, right, wrapping the scarf around and such. That was quite wholesome. I think that was a little bit of a tearjerker for me. A little bit, I definitely feel for Mikasa. She'll never get to live that life with Eren, right? So that kind of sucks, right? Or that does suck a lot, big time. And so, yeah. And then you have all the just the growing up, right? I mean, um, people visiting his grave, and eventually Mikasa passing away, and then I believe she was buried next to him. I don't know, I forget. But then the tree started to grow. It got bigger and bigger and bigger with over hundreds of years, in fact, thousands of years, because you can see the buildings growing right along with the tree, and then unfortunately war ensues, right? Thousands of years later, with all the modern technology, right? With helicopters, jets, missile launchers, and everything, rocket launchers, blowing each other up, and then lo and behold, it's post-apocalyptic, right? But you have the tree, and there's the boy, right? The boy goes into that tree, I believe. So that's how it ends, and that's where the sort of cliffhanger kind of comes in, right? That cliffhanger feel. Will this story continue? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm okay with it ending like that, right? That mystery, you know? So that's all I got. I kind of wish there was some more resolve with some characters, but what happened with Jean? Did Jean ever get to marry Mikasa? Who did Mikasa marry, right? What happened with Armin and Annie, right? I mean, you kind of get the picture of how they wound up together, or whether they do or not. Um, what happened with Coney, and what happened with uh uh Onekapon or something. I forget his name. The black dude, right? Um, he had like a code name almost, but anyway. He was last seen helping out that one dude that was like super loyal to Eren, but he was like tearing up by the end of it. Um, yeah, it's that was a kind of a interesting way to end it for him, I guess. I think there's some extra stuff. I don't ever remember Levi giving out candy like that. I forget. But yeah, he was giving out candy to the kids, which I don't remember if that was in the manga or not. But oh well. Anyway, um, that story ends. It's hard to say, of whether this is gonna continue or not. Like actually continue. There's gonna be spin-offs, I'm sure. Like the maybe the Attack on Titan high school stuff will continue. I don't know. Hard to say, but yeah, that's really much it. The journey ends here. So it's been a long, wild ride, and I enjoyed most of it for the most part. So, anyways, that's it for here for realsies. I know it's a pretty long video, but it's kind of appropriate, right? It was a long series. Went on. Well, the manga itself isn't super long. It's long enough, but the time that the anime took to really get the quality down, stuff like that, make sure the quality was there, yeah, that took a long time. But um, I think it definitely wrapped up nicely. What do you guys think? Any discussions you want to have relating to Attack on Titan? You know, leave it down below. Love to see them. Like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys. And check out all the links in the description below. So, again, thank you very much. This has been my review and spoiler talk for Attack on Titan. So, yeah, I'm gonna miss it. But anyways, thank you very much, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Sean out.